Silence. A deep, unsettling quiet hanging over places where vibrant communities once buzzed with life. Across the vast heartland of the Americas, whole villages vanished, leaving behind a riddle that still baffles and fascinates us. These aren't just a few isolated incidents. We're talking about a pattern of disappearances, of settlements abandoned so completely, it's as if their people were just spirited away. What could make thousands walk away from their homes, their ancestral lands, often so quickly that everyday items were left right where they lay, silent witnesses to a sudden exit? Sure, conventional history offers explanations: drought, war, not enough resources. But are those really enough to explain the sheer scale, the truly puzzling details, and the persistent legends that talk about visitors from somewhere beyond our world? Imagine a city, bigger than London was at the time, rising out of the North American wilderness. Its people were masters of building colossal earthworks, only for the city to fade into almost nothing within just a few centuries. Or picture intricate cliff dwellings, incredible feats of engineering, suddenly left empty by those who built them. These aren't stories from some lost continent. They're mysteries buried deep in America's own soil. And when we listen really closely to the whispers of the land, to the ancient stories passed down for generations, a more unsettling question pops up. Were these disappearances entirely human-caused? Or did some otherworldly hand play a part in these profound vanishings? The landscapes of North America hold secrets, etched into the earth and stone. Secrets of people who built amazing societies and then, it seems, just walked away. This vanished village phenomenon isn't a one-off. It's a recurring theme that echoes across different cultures and times, leaving a trail of questions that just don't have easy answers. Take the Ancestral Puebloans, often called the Anasazi. They thrived for centuries in the Four Corners region, where Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico meet today. They built stunning architectural wonders, like the multi-story great houses in Chaco Canyon, and breathtaking cliff dwellings tucked into sheer rock faces at Mesa Verde. These weren't crude huts. They were sophisticated buildings, often aligned with celestial events, supported by complex road and irrigation systems. For over 700 years, their culture flourished, adapting to a tough environment. Then, around 1300 CE, something changed, big time. Major settlements like Mesa Verde and those in Chaco Canyon were abandoned. The people moved on, leaving behind their homes, their kivas, those sacred ceremonial spots, and many of their belongings. Why? The usual explanations point to long droughts, a lack of resources, and maybe internal conflicts or pressure from other migrating groups. And yes, climate records do show periods of severe environmental stress that likely pushed people to leave some communities. But the completeness of the abandonment in some areas, and the sheer number of people who left major centers, still fuels debate. Some homes look like the occupants plan to come right back, while others show signs of violence or ritual burning. It suggests a complex departure, maybe one that unfolded over generations. Head further east into the fertile river valleys of the Mississippi, and another mystery unfolds: the rise and fall of Cahokia. Near modern-day St. Louis, Missouri, Cahokia was a sprawling urban center at its peak, around 1050 to 1150 CE. This wasn't just a village, it was a metropolis, the largest pre-Columbian city north of Mexico. Estimates put its population between 10,000 and 20,000 people in the city itself, with even more in the surrounding area. To give you some perspective, Cahokia was bigger than many European cities of its day, including London. The people of Cahokia, part of the Mississippian culture, were master builders. They erected over 120 massive earthen mounds, the largest of which, Monk's Mound, still stands today, a testament to their incredible engineering skills. This huge structure, rising 100 feet high, covers about 15 acres at its base. Building these mounds meant moving an estimated 55 million cubic feet of earth over decades, an amazing feat of labor and organization. Yet by 1400 CE, this once bustling city was largely empty, its grand plazas and monumental mounds silent. While some research suggests a gradual decline and even later repopulation by other Native American groups between the 1500s and 1700s, The abandonment of Cahokia at its height is still a huge historical puzzle. Theories for its decline include environmental damage, floods, drought, disease, war, and societal collapse. A recent study from July 2024 even questions if a long drought was the main reason for crop failure, suggesting Cahokians had clever engineering and irrigation skills that might have helped them handle such problems. This just makes the mystery deeper. If it wasn't solely an environmental disaster, what really pushed the people of this great city to scatter? These are just two big examples. Across the continent, other sites whisper similar stories of communities that thrived and then vanished or went through dramatic changes, their stories partly lost to time. From the monumental earthworks of Poverty Point in Louisiana, built by hunter-gatherers thousands of years ago, to lesser-known village abandonments, a pattern of profound societal shifts is clear. While archaeologists painstakingly piece together timelines and environmental data, there's this nagging feeling, a sense that we don't have the full story. It's these very gaps in our understanding that open the door to more unconventional questions. What if some of these disappearances weren't just about earthly struggles? What if the inhabitants weren't just migrating, but were guided or even compelled by forces beyond what we normally understand? The Earth itself holds clues, strange, compelling artifacts and monumental constructions that seem to defy simple explanations. These archaeological puzzles, found right in America's heartland, make us question the limits of ancient abilities and wonder if forgotten knowledge, or even outside influence, played a role in their creation and, sometimes, their abandonment. Cahokia is a perfect example. The sheer scale of its mounds is just breathtaking. Monk's Mound, the main ceremonial structure, is a four-terraced platform mound, engineered with incredible care. Its construction, needing an estimated 22 million cubic feet of earth for this mound alone, was done by people who didn't have draft animals, the wheel, for hauling anyway, or metal tools for digging. The earth was carried by hand, basketful by basketful. The logistics needed for something like that, feeding a workforce, planning the complex architecture, speaks of a highly sophisticated and powerful society. Recent digs keep uncovering more evidence of this complexity, with finds in June 2024 revealing 900-year-old ceramics, micro-drills, structures, and wall trenches from Cahokia's peak. Beyond the mounds, Cahokia had large open plazas, residential areas, and strange circular wooden post arrangements known as woodhenges. These woodhenges, reconstructed by archaeologists, seem to have worked as astronomical observatories, marking solstices and equinoxes with impressive precision. Such advanced astronomical knowledge, built right into their city planning, suggests a deep understanding of celestial cycles. The question that just hangs in the air is how such a society, with its obvious stability and advanced organization, could decline and scatter so completely in a relatively short time. If drought wasn't the only devastating factor, as some recent studies suggest, what else helped empty this once mighty city? The silence from Cahokia's peak is deafening. Travel southwest to the arid lands of the Four Corners, and the mysteries only get deeper. Chaco Canyon, a major center of ancestral Puebloan culture between 850 and 1150 CE, has its own set of enigmas. The Chacoans built massive great houses, multi-story stone complexes with hundreds of rooms, like Pueblo Bonito. These buildings show off exquisite masonry and complex architectural planning, often aligned with solar and lunar events. Maybe even more baffling is the vast network of roads radiating out from Chaco Canyon. These aren't simple trails, they're wide, remarkably straight paths, often stretching for miles, sometimes seeming to lead to no major destination, or just to small outlying settlements. Some researchers argue these roads weren't mainly for trade or transport in the usual sense, but perhaps served as ceremonial pathways or even landscape monuments, showing a sophisticated understanding of engineering and a grand vision of their sacred land. The labor involved in building them, cutting through terrain and building ramps and stairways, is immense. What was their ultimate purpose? And why, after centuries of development, did the Chacoan system collapse, its great houses largely abandoned by the mid-1100s to 1200s? while some descendants, like the Picures Pueblo, have kept connections to the region, challenging the idea of a complete regional exodus for all groups. The abandonment of the Gran Chacoan centers themselves is still a pivotal mystery. Then you have the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, Colorado. Built by Ancestral Puebloans, these intricate stone villages are nestled into alcoves within sheer canyon walls. Structures like Cliff Palace and Balcony House are marvels of adaptation and construction, showing off sophisticated building techniques. After flourishing in these sheltered cities for generations, often having previously farmed the mesa tops, these sites were also abandoned by around 1300 CE. Again, drought and resource depletion are named as primary causes, but the decision to move into these harder-to-reach cliff alcoves in the first place, around 1200 CE, is itself a subject of debate, maybe for defense, or for better access to water, or protection from the elements. Beyond these grand sites, the archaeological record across the Americas has numerous enigmatic petroglyphs, rock carvings, and artifacts whose meanings are debated. Some ancient astronaut theorists point to certain carvings found in places like the Southwest, interpreting figures with unusual heads or what look like lines coming from them as depictions of otherworldly beings or even spacecraft. Now, mainstream archaeology, it really must be said, interprets these figures within the context of shamanistic visions, mythological beings, or symbolic representations of natural phenomena or tribal cosmology. But the persistence of these alternative interpretations highlights the allure of the unknown. Are these just artistic expressions of a spiritual worldview, or could some of them, as fringe theories suggest, be eyewitness accounts of something far stranger? The stones stay silent, offering their carvings up to our endless interpretations. The sheer ingenuity and sometimes unexplainable aspects of these ancient sites create fertile ground for questions that push the boundaries of conventional history. Woven into the rich tapestry of Native American oral traditions are fascinating and persistent legends of star people, beings said to have come from the heavens. They supposedly interacted with humanity, shared wisdom, and sometimes even played a role in the destiny of tribes. While these stories are deeply spiritual and form the bedrock of cultural identity, ancient alien theorists controversially suggest they might be more than just myths, that they could be fragmented memories of actual extraterrestrial encounters. Across diverse indigenous cultures, separated by huge distances and different languages, you find strikingly similar themes. The Hopi people of Arizona, for example, have complex prophecies and traditions speaking of multiple worlds or epochs of existence, and of interactions with Kachinas, powerful spirit beings, some understood to have come from the stars. Hopi lore describes these Kachinas as benevolent beings who visited their ancestors, teaching them essential skills for survival, farming, and a spiritual way of life. Some legends even talk about the star people, the Kachinas, building a great temple city of wisdom, Palatquapi, which many Hopi clans visited during their ancestral migrations. Prophecy Rock, a significant petroglyph panel in Hopi territory, is interpreted by some elders as depicting choices for humanity and the influence of these powerful beings. Similarly, the Zuni, neighbors to the Hopi in the Southwest, also have rich oral traditions that include stories of sky beings visiting their ancestors. Petroglyphs found in Zuni Pueblo and nearby areas are sometimes pointed to by ancient astronaut proponents as having motifs that look like modern ideas of alien figures or flying craft. Though, again, tribal historians and mainstream anthropologists see these as symbolic representations within their cultural cosmology. The Lakota Sioux of the Plains have traditions of star beings who played a part in their creation stories and offered spiritual guidance. The concept of Wakantanka, the Great Mystery, includes everything that is, and celestial bodies often feature prominently in their understanding of the cosmos and humanity's place in it. Tales exist of wise beings from the Pleiades star cluster, considered by some to be an ancestral home. Further north, the Ojibwe people have stories like that of the Wintermaker constellation, Orion, a celestial figure who governs the seasons. Their traditions are rich with astronomical observations and narratives linking human actions with the movements of the stars. The Cherokee people tell a poignant legend of the Boys, 7 youths who, feeling mistreated, prayed to the spirits and were lifted into the sky, becoming the Pleiades star cluster. This story, while teaching a lesson, also embeds the idea of a direct journey to the stars. Cree traditions, as explored in works like the Star Poems, creatively engage with oral narratives about star people, connecting indigenous spirituality to concepts of the cosmos and origins of life, sometimes depicting a hole in the sky as a pathway for these beings. The Blackfeet have legends of wolves, the first beings to pity humans, who later became visible as the Wolf Trail or Milky Way. Dr. Artie Sixkiller Clark, a professor emeritus who has interviewed many American Indians, collected numerous accounts of modern encounters with what are described as star people or UFOs. While her work focuses on contemporary experiences rather than just ancient folklore, she notes that these modern accounts often echo long-standing traditions of celestial visitors who continue to interact with indigenous peoples. These aren't historical accounts in the Western sense, but living traditions passed down through generations. They speak of beings who sometimes provided advanced knowledge, offered prophecies, warned of future disasters, or even in some stories, offered refuge or escape to other worlds. It's so important to approach these sacred stories with real respect. For the cultures that hold them, these aren't just fables. They're integral parts of their worldview, history, and spiritual understanding. Anthropologists and tribal elders often emphasize the metaphorical and spiritual nature of these legends, explaining them as ways of understanding the universe, natural phenomena, and the human condition. They are lessons about morality, community, and how everything is connected. However, for proponents of ancient alien theories, these widespread and often detailed accounts of star people, sky gods, or visitors from other realms are too specific, too consistent across unrelated cultures to be dismissed just as metaphor. They ask, could these legends be the cultural echoes of real physical encounters with extraterrestrial beings? Could the knowledge shared by these star people explain some of the seemingly advanced engineering feats or astronomical understanding found in ancient American sites? Could the stories of journeys to the stars, or of beings coming down from the sky, be literal, even if mythologized, accounts of advanced technology and off-world contact? The ambiguity and power of these oral traditions fuel the heart of this enduring mystery. The narratives exist, passed down through countless generations, whispering of a time when the veil between Earth and the cosmos was perhaps much thinner. This is where the threads of weird archaeological findings and ancient legends start to weave together, forming the basis of the provocative ancient alien intervention hypothesis. Could the vanished villages, the monumental constructions that don't have easy explanations, and the persistent Native American legends of star people all point to a forgotten chapter in human history, a chapter involving visitors from other planets? Think about the sheer scale and precision of sites like Cahokia and Chaco Canyon. Building Monk's Mound, for instance, 100 feet high and covering 15 acres, or quarrying and shaping millions of stone blocks for Chaco's great houses, these were enormous projects. Mainstream archaeology credits these achievements to clever human labor, sophisticated social organization, and generations of built-up knowledge. And rightly so, the ingenuity of these cultures is undeniable. Yet ancient astronaut theorists ask a pretty tempting question. Could this knowledge have been boosted? Could the organizational skills, the sudden jumps in architectural complexity, or the intricate astronomical alignments have been influenced, or even directly taught, by beings with a more advanced understanding of engineering, math, and the cosmos? The legends of star people often describe them as teachers, sharing crucial skills and wisdom. Was this wisdom purely spiritual, or did it include practical knowledge that showed up in these massive works? The mysterious road systems of Chaco Canyon, for example, stretching arrow straight for miles, sometimes seeming to connect minor sites or just end abruptly, have puzzled researchers. While ceremonial and symbolic purposes are likely, some theorists wonder if they served a purpose only clear from a higher viewpoint, or if they were built with a technological understanding of surveying and engineering that seems unusually advanced for its time and place. Could the star people, who by definition came from the sky, have provided a blueprint, or help in such large-scale landscape changes. Then there are the petroglyphs. Across the American Southwest, rock art panels show a huge array of figures and symbols. As we've said, while mainstream scholars interpret these through the lens of shamanism, mythology, and ritual, some images strike ancient alien fans as curiously suggestive. Figures with large, elongated heads, sometimes with what look like antennae or helmets, circular or disc-shaped objects in the sky, intricate patterns that some compare to circuit boards or astronomical charts. Are these just misinterpretations of conventional symbols, our brains seeing patterns that aren't there? Or could a small fraction of these ancient carvings be literal depictions of non-human beings and their craft, as seen through the eyes of our ancestors? The ambiguity is exactly what fuels the speculation. The very act of vanishing adds another layer to this hypothesis. Could the sudden abandonment of major settlements like those of the Ancestral Puebloans or the decline of Cahokia be linked to an extraterrestrial presence? This is probably the most speculative part of the theory. Some stories collected by researchers like RD6 Killer Clark include themes of star people offering rescue or transport to other worlds in times of disaster. Could some of the vanishings not be migrations to other earthly places, but something far more extraordinary? Maybe these advanced beings, seeing environmental collapse or social strife coming, offered a select group of people an escape. Or a darker thought, maybe the disappearances weren't voluntary, but somehow orchestrated by these powerful visitors. It has to be said, there's no direct archaeological evidence to support such dramatic claims. The evidence for abandonment overwhelmingly points to earthly factors. However, the hypothesis doesn't necessarily need mass abductions. Perhaps the intervention was more subtle. Could introducing new knowledge or technologies have accidentally disrupted existing social structures, leading to internal conflicts or dependencies that ultimately couldn't last once the star people left? Or, if these beings were seen as gods, did their departure lead to a crisis of faith, a societal breakdown that resulted in abandoning sacred sites built in their honor or at their instruction? The ancient alien intervention hypothesis tries to weave these different threads: unexplained engineering, advanced astronomical knowledge, enigmatic art, and deeply embedded cultural legends of sky beings into a single, big story. It suggests that humanity, in its early stages, wasn't alone, and that interactions with extraterrestrial intelligences might have shaped civilizations in ways we're only starting to think about. It's a narrative that challenges our understanding of the past, our place in the universe, and what it even means to be human. It paints a picture of a distant past far more wondrous and maybe far more unsettling than conventional history books might suggest. The question remains, is it a fantasy born of our modern fascination with space, or a forgotten truth whispering from the silenced heartland of America? While theories of ancient alien intervention offer a pretty wild story for the mysteries of vanished villages and puzzling archaeological sites, we've got to look at this with a critical and balanced eye. Mainstream archaeology and anthropology provide solid, evidence-based explanations for these things, and these views form the foundation of what we currently understand. Archaeologists overwhelmingly say the abandonment of sites like Chaco Canyon, Mesa Verde, and the decline of Cahokia were due to a complex mix of earthly factors. Long and severe droughts, identified through climate studies, are a big one, leading to crop failures and water shortages. Using up resources after centuries of living in one place, cutting down forests for building and fuel, overhunting, would have strained what the local environments could support. Internal societal pressures, like political instability, social divisions causing unrest, or the breakdown of religious or ideological systems, are also seen as major contributing factors. Warfare and conflict between groups, or with new people arriving, likely played a role in some regional abandonments. Recent genetic studies, like those involving the Picures Pueblo and their ancestral ties to Chaco Canyon, also suggest that abandonment wasn't always a complete vanishing, but sometimes involved migrations, regrouping, and the development of new societal structures in different places. The story of Native American resilience and persistence, rather than simple disappearance, is being emphasized more and more. Scientists and mainstream researchers are pretty skeptical of ancient alien theories for several key reasons. First, there's a serious lack of verifiable direct physical evidence of aliens visiting in ancient times. No unambiguous alien artifacts, technology, or biological remains have been found and authenticated through rigorous scientific checks. Interpreting petroglyphs or architectural features as alien is highly subjective and often relies on taking these things out of their rich cultural and symbolic contexts. What one person sees as a spaceman, an archaeologist or cultural historian sees as a known mythological figure or a shamanistic symbol. Second, crediting the impressive achievements of ancient peoples, like building Cahokia's mounds or the astronomical alignments at Chaco Canyon, to alien help can be seen as a disservice to the ingenuity, intelligence, and abilities of those indigenous cultures themselves. Critics argue that such theories often carry an underlying, sometimes unintentional bias, implying that certain ancient, often non-European societies couldn't have achieved such feats without outside help. Archaeologists work to show the step-by-step development of these skills and societal complexities through human innovation and adaptation over long periods. Also, many of the mysteries highlighted by ancient alien fans aren't necessarily unexplainable to mainstream science. Rather, they're subjects of ongoing research and debate. The purpose of Chacuan roads, the exact reasons for Cahokia's decline, or the full meaning of certain rock art symbols are complex questions that archaeologists are actively investigating. They're using evolving scientific methods and increasingly including indigenous knowledge and perspectives. Recent archaeological work, like the ongoing digs at Cahokia, continually adds new data and refines our understanding of these past societies. A study from Washington University in St. Louis, for example, recently challenged the idea that Cahokia's population collapsed just because of drought-induced crop failure, suggesting their agricultural systems might have been more resilient. This doesn't bring in aliens. It points to the sophisticated adaptability of the Cahokian people, making their eventual dispersal perhaps even more multifaceted. It is also worth noting that some indigenous scholars and community members worry about their sacred stories and traditions being appropriated and misinterpreted to fit ancient astronaut narratives. They argue that reducing star people legends to literal accounts of aliens can strip these stories of their deeper spiritual meaning and cultural importance. The scientific method relies on testable ideas, empirical evidence, and peer review. So far, ancient alien theories haven't met these tough standards in the eyes of the broader scientific community. The silence from these vanished villages is indeed unsettling, the scale of their achievements awe-inspiring. But for most researchers, the answers lie buried in the earth, in the careful analysis of data, and in a deeper understanding of human resilience, creativity, and the complex societal and environmental forces that have shaped civilizations throughout history. The mystery is profound, but the search for answers continues, grounded in the evidence left behind by the people themselves. The vanished villages and the legends of star people leave us with way more questions than answers, don't they? What do you think happened in America's heartland? Were these disappearances just the result of earthly events? Or is there something more to the stories of visitors from the stars? Share your theories and thoughts in the comments below. And if you find these ancient mysteries as captivating as we do, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the unexplained. America's heartland guards its secrets well. The silent mounds of Cahokia, the empty cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, the enigmatic rock art of the Southwest. They all speak of civilizations that climbed to great heights and then, for reasons we're still debating, faded away, leaving behind an enduring legacy of mystery. Conventional explanations offer plausible stories of environmental change, societal stress, and human migration. Yet the whispers persist, those ancient Native American legends of star people who came from the heavens, offering guidance, knowledge, and perhaps something more. Could these narratives be more than just myth? Could the baffling archaeological finds, the monumental efforts that seem to push the limits of known ancient abilities, really point to an otherworldly influence? While solid proof is still missing, the questions themselves keep firing up our imagination and challenging how we see the past. The vanished villages remain an unsettling enigma, a reminder that history isn't always a closed book, but a landscape filled with shadows and unanswered echoes. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in that vast space between the earthly and the celestial, just waiting for us to figure out the clues left behind in stone, in legend, and in the enduring silence of America's lost worlds. The search for answers definitely continues.